What's going on, everyone? I am here with Erica Wiles for episode number 3, the big 3. Erica, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Oh, living the dream. Erica, tell the world, or however many people are watching this, tell the world what you do and why you're here today.
Cool, so my name is Erica. I am a licensed acupuncturist and I run Miru Acupuncture. So it's an acupuncture practice located in Roslyn in Arlington. And I do acupuncture, I do cupping, I do a few cosmetic treatments as well. So that includes cosmetic acupuncture, microneedling, and nanoneedling. So really covers a whole gamut. So just a lot of different things going on over there.
That is awesome. You're covering a lot in the health and wellness space, which honestly, we've talked about this on the side. I really want to dig into and pick your brain. I know for starters, you didn't start out with acupuncture and having your own business with this.
Yeah.
So let's hear your story, even before acupuncture, and then how you made your way into opening up your own business.
Okay. I don't know how much time you have. It's a long story.
We've got time. It's
okay.
a podcast.
So I went to Virginia Tech and I studied advertising and marketing because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I did that until I think I was around 26 years old, working in the marketing world, and kept like job hopping. So like every year got a new job and couldn't really figure out like if it was the company I was working for or if it was just what I was doing. And then, finally it hit me like I need to find something I'm passionate about. And I've always been really passionate about helping other people and just more of like the alternative space of health. So I looked at a few different programs about, like how to do that and what would be feasible for me, like career-wise. And I looked at, physical therapy, dietetics, acupuncture. And, after looking at different schools, I actually also thought about going back to Virginia Tech to do either dietetics or physical therapy. But ultimately, I landed on acupuncture. And so got my master's degree there, quit my job in 2018. And I turned my boss like when I was leaving and it's like, oh, like, are you going back to school? What are you going back to school for? And I was like, I'm getting my master's in acupuncture. So totally different job fields, but did that and then graduated from acupuncture school in June 2022. So that took some time and then like passed all my boards and did all of that. And then last June, I opened my acupuncture practice. So it's been like 5-ish years, like a long journey, but finally got there.
That is amazing. I know you've mentioned in the past that there's with acupuncture, it's one of those things where it's built off of traditional Chinese medicine. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to get into that, but let's just kind of start from the basics, right? For someone who's not too familiar with acupuncture and cupping, what are some of the benefits, like the base level benefits that they can get just from the first session alone, and then whatever they can do from going forward?
Yeah, okay, I love this question. So the great thing with acupuncture and just Chinese medicine is there's really no, like how you're saying, like what are the benefits? Like there's no side effects. So there's nothing bad that's gonna come out of getting a treatment. Acupuncture as a whole, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So it really works with that like rest and digest when your body is in like the calm mode and you just feel very like at ease and your body's able to restore itself. So with acupuncture, it works with the autonomic nervous system, so the sympathetic nervous system too. So that's your like fight and flight. And so if you're dealing with something where say you get like really bad headaches, if you have insomnia, if you have musculoskeletal type of pain, all of those things, it helps alleviate these different types of symptoms and puts your body in that calm mode so it can kind of help restore itself in a natural way. Same with cupping. Cupping, I see a lot of people with, like shoulder pain, like maybe knots in their shoulders, low back pain, some runners with, tight calves or hamstrings. And that also just really like alleviates their pain, gets things balanced again, gets like literally good blood flow, oxygen to all their muscles. So it just really helps with everything.
Yeah. I know there's this perception that, either athletes or people who are only active, they're the ones who should be going. I guess I know from, your stories and everything, I've seen how acupuncture, for example, can help people with allergies even.
Yes.
Right? Can you explain some of those, like for people who maybe aren't as active, right?
Yeah.
What does that break down that perception.
Yeah. So with Chinese medicine, there's the whole, it's not just treating like the outside of the body. So like I was saying, like back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, it helps a lot of internal medicine disorders, which actually like I like to treat more because I think that's it's like so rewarding when someone comes in and is like, I just had like my first great night of sleep after years of not being able to fall asleep at like a normal time or without melatonin or some sort of sleep aid. So it really helps, again, like regulate everything. So whatever someone tells me when they come in for their first treatment, they might be coming in, just for back pain. And as we're going through like the entire intake and I'm asking them a bunch of very specific questions about their body, I might start to discover like, do they have ringing in their ears? Do they wake up with congestion? Do they have headaches? Do they have these things that maybe they might not notice, but it kind of rings a bell for me? Like, oh, all of these things are interconnected. And once we start working on one, it starts fixing all of these other things. That's something else actually a lot of people will say to me, like they'll come in for something and be like, oh, I didn't mention I actually have like been battling depression and it's been getting a lot better. Or I've been dealing with this other thing and it's like somehow gotten a lot better. So it's really great. Like it just works.
What's the science behind that? Like how is it helping people with depression?
So it basically, well, I guess in turn, kind of what I was saying, like the autonomic nervous system. So depending on where, I'm placing the needles, it's triggering your body to send out neurotransmitters. So it's like serotonin, dopamine, all of these different things that make your body feel really good and relaxed, but also stimulate it to start healing. And so I guess the theory behind it is more like the meridian theory. So if someone is coming in and has like low back pain, which often has to do with like the bladder channel in Chinese medicine or the kidney channel, like for people who have migraines, it could be like a liver gallbladder type of thing or like a bladder kidney type of thing. And when I'm saying that to patients, they're like, oh, like is
what?
my like liver messed up? And it doesn't have to do with the actual organ. It's just like the meridian system. And so working, like that's kind of why we do this intensive intake, because it tells me like what meridian isn't working properly. And so once you start working on that and getting that balanced again, it just kind of makes everything fall into place. I don't know if that
that makes sense. So are these people, like your clients, for example, how often are they coming for follow-up sessions? Because I imagine it's not like a one and done type thing.
Right. Yeah. That's what a lot of people, like I'll meet them when I tell them what I do, like not patients, but just say like, if I'm just meeting someone for the first time and they'll be like, oh, I tried it like acupuncture once and it didn't work for you or it worked for me. That's because it really doesn't work just one time. Like you need to go through a series of treatments and then it kind of gets your body to, be healing on its own and do everything it needs to do on its own. So usually I tell people it's going to be different if it's more acute versus if it's chronic. So acute would be something like shorter than 3 months. So if someone like maybe sprained their back, like maybe they're lifting weights and they just injured their back, or if maybe they just started having like night sweating. Night sweating is a big thing I see too. I feel like that's really common with people, but opposed to maybe some people I see have had migraines for like 20 years. That's not going to be able to be fixed in a short amount of time as like someone who just barely hurt their back very quickly. So I usually tell people start with like 4 to 6 sessions, like once a week for 4 to 6 weeks. And then usually with those more acute type of things, so if it's just, like a back sprain or something, that will usually go away pretty quickly. If it is something longer, so like something with allergies, migraines, I see a lot of digestive disorders, that's going to take a lot longer, maybe 10 sessions or more. And then I usually tell people to do like a tune-up. So maybe like once a month, maybe once every like 6 to 8 weeks, just come in, just make sure all your symptoms are at bay and that it's kind of like reminding your body like how it should be working.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, sometimes those, like if someone has chronic migraines, like sometimes those will kind of start to creep back in. So you just want to make sure that everything is being kept good. But
this might be a weird question, but has anyone come back to you and said, I'm cured? Like, is there a end state of being cured, or is it an ongoing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I do see some people that come in now just basically like once a month or once every like 1 to 2 months. And when I see them, they're like, oh, like I don't have any symptoms. These are more specifically for like my migraine patients. They'll say like they haven't had, any migraines anymore, but they just want to come in to make sure that like
they just want
nothing
needles
is
in them.
happening.
Yeah, casual. Yeah.
Well, because it's also so relaxing. So they're just like, even if I don't have the symptoms, like I actually see a good amount of people who come in like once a week because it's just their time to relax and they just really enjoy the whole like relaxation, stress, and everything. So it's just like another thing that people
I believe it.
always use it. But yeah,
I came for the intake session.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna play some music now that these needles are in you. Just feel free to take a nap. And I felt so relaxed. I don't know if it was like, I think I asked you if it was on the Spotify playlist, but yeah, I just like passed out, and it truly did allow me to just take a step back and have a moment of peace, silence, but also just have proper blood flow throughout my body. And I was mentioning to you before we started the recording, then I started driving, the road rage kicked in and went downhill, but I did sleep well that night.
Okay,
so
good.
It was good.
A lot of people report like that same day, especially their first session, will say like, I slept so great the day of my appointment.
Yeah. So for, I know on your website you have, different pricing, like you have for intake is different. Then from there you kind of break it down for continuous sessions. So talk us through that process of what does the intake look like? And even before that, is that a common thing that other acupuncturists do as well? Like
having the intake. Yeah, so you do need to have the formal intake. So it's going to be about a 90-minute session. You do need to do that just because so much of acupuncture is figuring out like how much or how well someone's body works and how it all like fits in together and all the symptoms they have. So that part is pretty critical. And then from there, we just do the follow-ups. So that would be like, say you came in, say you also had migraines. So for the intake, I'd ask you a bunch of questions about that. But then also like, how's your sleep? How's your digestion? How's like your stress levels and a bunch of different things. And then like when you would come in for follow-ups, it would be more, just checking in like, or like, did you have migraines last week? Like, how are you feeling overall? How's your like past week been? So we're not getting into like all of the questions every single time I see you. But for the initial one, you really need to make sure that you're kind of aware, especially if there's any like red flag signs and just other things that maybe like, sometimes it's like you see a doctor and they only give you like 10 minutes of their time and people might not notice or they might not report something to their doctor that they report to you. So sometimes even when I'm at the end of the appointment, I'll, like write referrals or recommendations and I'll say like, you should see a doctor for this specific thing. Just as like a, just want to make sure everything is like good and healthy. But
I don't know if it's really localized to this area, but are there like common symptoms or issues you're noticing during the intake that's just, I don't know, common against like a certain type of person or group of people or just our society, if you will?
Yeah, there's definitely like the stress as like a collective. I see so many people that talk about like the chronic stress they have, and like stress manifests differently in every single person. So for some people, like it might be the headaches, it might be really bad neck tension. Some people get really bad shoulder tension. Some people, like you said, road rage. Some people just have like, you can tell their emotional state is more like fiery almost, where they're very short-tempered and everything. Some people, it causes them like digestive issues. So all of those things are pretty much like manifesting from stress. But I feel like I probably like see a lot of musculoskeletal type things, and then probably headaches and digestive type of disorders too.
Okay. And then are those linked to a common type of issue that they come to you for? Like I remember I came to you saying, I'm a fairly active person. I typically have back pain or like stiffness. What are some of the common pains or tension areas that your clients are reporting?
Back pain for sure. So whether it's like low back pain or upper, shoulder area pain, and then I feel like knee pain is also very common. Okay. And then there's some people where it's like I might just see them for something else, and then week after week they might be like, oh, I'm feeling some like almost like a carpal tunnel type pain or some pain in my hands just from like the way I'm sitting at work or like typing or writing or something. So I feel like it's a lot of like kind of like lifestyle type things.
Yeah.
But
so let's actually switch gears a little bit. I'm curious to know about the actual practice itself, right? The Chinese medicine, the whole science. Is it science or theory?
Theory, yes, yeah.
So like, because you study that in particular. So how is Chinese medicine shaped even beyond acupuncture, or is it really just localized to
No, I mean, so there's different types of Chinese medicine. So I didn't study herbs in school. That would be its own degree. So I'm like debating if I should still go back and do that. But
for herbs,
herbs, yeah. So it's almost like you can take it in like a capsule form, almost like a prescription.
Huh.
So with that, those are because it is like a more of an internal type medicine. That's very more specific. So like if someone is taking, an actual like prescription, you need to be aware of everything, because then that could have, some sort of side effect. Whereas with acupuncture, there's not going to be any side effects. But there's herbs, there's acupuncture, there's tuina, there's cupping, gua sha, and I know there's something else, now I'm forgetting it. But there's like a bunch of different umbrellas that all fall into Chinese medicine.
Okay.
So it's not just like the acupuncture and cupping, I think, what a lot of people think of. And a lot of people think like gua sha is like for, I don't know if you know. It's very like big on TikTok with like facial type. It makes like your bone structure look better.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But in Chinese medicine, it's used literally like for like musculoskeletal pain.
Okay.
So helping with like shoulder pain, you're literally like scraping the body. It sounds kind of weird, but
I believe it.
It all makes sense, but yeah.
If it's on TikTok, I guess it's...
Yeah. It's like taken its own form, I think, of being like taken as something else.
So is there, I guess, an origin point of when Chinese medicine started?
I don't know the particular or like specific years. I think it's something like 2,000 to 4,000 years ago. It's kind of tied into like Ayurvedic medicine. Like they kind of follow, I don't know a lot about Ayurvedic medicine, but I know that there are some similarities, and I don't know which one came first.
Okay.
But it is just rooted in like the principles of just like treating things at the root, which is like why I was more drawn to it as a career field, because I think with Western medicine today and just society today, things are so quick to just kind of put like a Band-Aid on everything. And if you say you have a certain symptom, it's like, oh, like if you have like a GERD or you have like really bad acid reflux, it's like, why don't you take like Pepcid or, something to just cover it up, instead of like when people see me, it's like, oh, we'll figure out like the root of why is your stomach like overproducing all this acid that's going to your esophagus. And like that I think should be, the real thing you're looking at, instead of being like, let's just like give you something to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is more looking at like, where is the imbalance, and like, how do we get your body balanced again?
Got it. So like, don't take things that will be a Band-Aid, rather go to the root cause, do the acupuncture, do the cupping, whatever it may be, to really bring it back to, bring your body back to equilibrium, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like your body wants to be there and it wants to heal on its own, but sometimes it just needs like a little bit of guidance. So, yeah.
I know your office specifically is based in Roslyn, but even just taking it at a broader level, are there a lot of acupuncturists in the country? Like, I guess how many?
I mean, I don't know, an exact number by any means, but there's not that many schools. So where I went to school, it was in Fairfax, and now it's in Tyson's Corner. But that's the only one in Virginia. And I was looking at going to the only school that was in Maryland, and I think that actually has since closed. So there's like very few schools. There are like California, for instance, has a bunch. A lot of the West Coast states have a bunch. And I think New York City or New York has a couple. It kind of depends where you're looking, but there's not that many schools. So like, I know some people will actually like move states to go study somewhere. So I was lucky that there was a school in Virginia. But I don't think there's really just that many acupuncturists in general. I feel like luckily now, like the trends of healthcare and like how people are kind of like reevaluating things, like people are much more attuned to like what they're putting in their bodies, and just thinking like, oh, if I take this, is this really helping me? So I think more people are looking for alternative like methods and medicine, which is nice. But I just think there wasn't like that much of a need for it before. So there's not that many acupuncturists.
I have noticed a growing trend in just, people being more mindful of not just their food and anything they consume, but how they're treating themselves and their body. Now, obviously with that, there people still go out, drink, do whatever, but I know personally, like I've been very, very focused on just eating a little bit better, working out more, doing the different things like the acupuncture session that we had to focus on. I know it's being growing as a societal trend. Have you noticed people wanting to learn more about acupuncture? Like how are they finding you?
So I mean, I'm lucky where I am in Roslyn that it's more of like a walkable area with lots of high rises. So I feel like there's lots of people, like if they are, on Google or something, a lot of people I see actually live like within walking distance to me, which is funny because I'll literally like run into them on the street like a lot. But whereas I feel like if you're say in a place like where it's more driving and they had more options, they could drive, to any town to find you. So because I'm more of like a neighborhood type fit, I feel, I guess, like people are able to like find me that way. But I have been doing like, just because I'm also a new business and trying to meet more people in the area, like table setups and, speaking at with local businesses and, working with other, like small business owners and things. And then because people think a lot of acupuncture is like musculoskeletal type disorders, I've been going to a lot of different like gyms and things. Arlington has so many, so it's like not hard to find gyms, especially people that are, interested in being like, oh, I've had, like back pain forever. I've had shoulder pain. So that's been an easy way. And then some people are like receptive to it, and good amount of people are curious, but then there's people that are like, I don't know, needles. And there's still, I feel like the thought of like, how is that going to work? Or like, what is that really doing? But I think it's kind of like things are like trending towards like being more open and accepting too.
How do you, I guess like, I'm actually curious. What's like the weirdest or funniest conversation you've had in convincing people to just put needles in their body?
I feel like I don't do that much you can tell pretty much if someone is either like interested in it or if they're like, no, because some people, like the times I've set up tables, they'll come up and be like, oh, like I don't want to try it, but my mom believes in it, and then we'll like walk away. And I'm like, okay, like thank you. but so I feel like they're like those people like that were just like, oh, their like thought process is more like, this isn't worth my time. But then there's people like, oh, like I've heard about it, and like I've heard it can help with like XYZ thing, like can you help with that? And like we learn in school, how to help with all these different ailments, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like I would love to help you, and just kind of explaining like the process again, like how many treatments it would be, and kind of going through the intake and everything. So like if someone I feel like is curious, they're generally like more accepting to it, but it's just kind of educating them on like how it works and what all goes into it.
Well, on the topic of education, what do you do to educate? Like, whether it's in-person events, like what are you doing to help people understand and accept this new way of,
I mean, I do have my Instagram page. I feel like social media for me, it's not like my thing. Like I would much rather be educating people in person. I just feel like that's easier to have a real conversation with them. And then I feel like just being able to ask like the back and forth, because there's so many different types of things that it can help with, that I think like people might not want to share online. Like I see a lot of people, and maybe this sounds like TMI, but so many women I see suffer from chronic constipation. And that is actually a lot tied to the kind of like dietary foods that they're eating that they might not even be aware of. And it's really interesting because a big part of Chinese medicine is like a dietary component too. And so, it's like smoothies, salads, iced coffees. Like, I feel like a lot of women like are eating those types of foods, and those are actually like really bad according to Chinese medicine. Yeah.
Even smoothies?
Yeah. So it's funny because it's healthy, and like salads are healthy, but you really never want to introduce cold in your body, but especially in your abdomen. And so like the more cold you're ingesting, you're basically like slowing down all of your like body systems. So if you're like constantly eating those, like a smoothie for breakfast, a salad for lunch, and then having iced coffee and iced water, it's like, it's going to mess with your like GI system and everything. And so sometimes I see like women or just people in general who have that, and I tell them in their first session, like I would switch these things, maybe eat like eggs and like sauteed vegetables or something. Sometimes like after the first week or two, and they're like, my problem is gone. And they're like, I thought it was a lifelong thing. And
that blows my mind, because I know so many people swear by smoothies and salads, and they say, healthy life, which I'd believe it. You're cramming your nutrients,
like vitamins, and just a lot of like fiber and like all the healthy types of foods. But if you're like, for your body's like functioning and everything, and it really helps to just be eating like warmer cooked foods. So that's like a little just like random tidbit, but
that is cool.
There's like so many things like that where like if I'm posting about it on like Facebook or Instagram, I don't think people really want to like DM me and be like, I'm dealing with, like, talk to me online about it. But then if I'm talking to someone in person, I mention it helps with digestive disorders. And people will be like, oh, like, can you tell, like, what types? And I can see that they're, like, interested in it. And when I give more details, like, oh, actually, I have had that for, like, 10 years or 20 years. And
nice.
they'll come see me and I'll give them more information on how to help. And it just, like, works itself out, which is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in person as well.
Yeah.
So what kind of events are you doing in person?
Yeah. I have Extend Bar in Arlington. It's right up the street from where I work, or from where my office is. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I did a cupping event with them. So that was fun. A bunch of people who had never experienced cupping before got to come in and just try that. And I think with that, people also have their own thoughts about it, because it looks kind of like, I don't know, to them, like, to me, it looks very normal, but I guess to them with, like, the purple marks, or it's like the section of the skin. But yeah, so that was, like, fun. And they'd, like, reach out to me after, being like, oh, I loved the session. Like, I feel great. And then just working, I guess, like, over the past, like, year or so with other small businesses, and just kind of, like, doing things with them in person. They're just, like, I feel like I've been partnering with a lot of local businesses, which has been cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know we're coming up at time, so I want to make sure we get this out of the way.
Yeah.
If someone, before they come see you, they want to kind of do the self-diagnostic techniques, right? We were talking about this earlier. Tell us, like, what's, like, a tip or two that they could do at home.
Okay, so a good tip, and this sounds like super easy, but I feel like it's very basic, and what people should be focusing on is, like, the power of sleep, but also just being outside every day, because there's so many things that are tied to our circadian rhythms and vitamin D levels. And just, I feel like when you go to a doctor and they always are saying, like, oh, your vitamin D is low, you should be, taking a supplement. But those two things I feel like are the most important every day, to just make sure you're getting outside, getting fresh air, and then falling asleep, and, like, sleeping for a good, like, 7 to 9 hours.
You've heard that, folks. When you hear the tip, when your friend tells you to go touch grass, this is, like, the real implementation of that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Erica, thank you for doing this. This is awesome. I learned a lot. Hopefully you did too. How can people find you? Like, give me your, like, website, your Instagram, maybe if you want LinkedIn, I don't know.
I don't have a LinkedIn.
Wow.
I'll get on that next. But my Instagram is at Miru Acupuncture. Website is miruacu.com.
How do you spell Miru?
miruacu.com. So very easy. And then email is just Erica, ERICA, at miruacu.com.
Beautiful.
So reach out with any questions. It's really easy.
Amazing. Thank you for joining. And if you stayed this far, wow. Thanks. Hopefully you learned something. But tune into the next one. Erica, thank you again. You're awesome. Appreciate you.